Thank you, Peter. 10 minutes here. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor to be here today and share my experiences, what happened when I was 10.5 years younger than today. Last time I visited Strasbourg, I was welcomed by a porter of Human Rights Court. "Oh, you are an applicant himself. Usually you are kept in prison." I'm not a law professional nor human rights specialist myself, so I'm not able to talk you with all the legal nuances, but will share some of my on-the-field experience with you. I will also quote some court arguments from my juridically unprofessional view. And all the following image captions are from the judgment, and all the photos are mine unless otherwise stated. So let's move now to the day from where all this started. I was sent by my employer to cover so-called Smash Asem demonstration in September 9, 2006. It unfolded in Helsinki, Finland, where I live and work. The demonstration was an exceptionally large one on the Finnish context. There were around 50 actual protesters, 50 journalists, some 500 bystanders, and 480 police and border guard officers. It was quite clear from the beginning of the demonstration that I should also focus on police maneuvers because of its unusual scale. Demonstration itself appeared to be most of its duration more of a carnivalistic nature than a wide, violent riot. I was working on this story to show the both sides of this happening, the demonstrations and police part. One of the Finnish government's main claims was that I should have moved to a separate area reserved for media representatives. This view is from that alleged area. As you can see, there is a good visibility to where everything unfolded. And this view is from the other alleged media area. And police was at that time clearing all the public outside the demonstration area. I quote the Grand Chamber's correct conclusion from paragraph 97. Journalists were not, nor was the applicant, asked by the authorities at any point of the events to use separate area reserved for the press. And furthermore, the demonstration was foreseen as a march along the road. The violent events could and actually did take place in an unpredicted area. So the evening began to settle and police started to use more force for apprehensions. At that moment, police started to use loudspeakers to announce that people should leave the scene to avoid apprehension. Majority of bystanders and peaceful demonstrators left the area via exit roads. All of them were checked and recorded on video at the exit gates. Some of the previously peaceful demonstrators got frustrated of police recording at exit roads and stayed also at the scene. Tensions on the Kiasma Square settled down from the demonstrators' side. Police used still their paint and chain method for apprehensions against for now peaceful demonstrators. That seemingly use of excessive force affected my following decision to stay witnessing situation until it ends. Finally, police apprehended 128 people. Among them were one former and one current member of parliament and myself as a sole media representative. So the big question, to stay or not to stay? Most of you here are law professionals, so I include some grand chamber reasoning here to keep you awake. As you see, it's not an easy choice to even 17-judge panel, consuming some months or years for the decision. My decision to remain at the center of the protest was made at a time when police had begun to apply tougher measures even with passive demonstrators. They were being detained using considerable force. So that's me 10 years ago. It's probably not hard to guess my editor's response when I called and asked if I should keep taking photos while the police beat protesters with expandable batons. I consulted nearest police officers and I was left to do my job. It was also a note on other testimonials that police used more force for apprehensions when there were no cameras present. It was still the time when most of mobile phones didn't have cameras, even we were in the middle of the then flourishing Nokia land. I also felt that I was working on the site in good faith as a responsible journalist with good communications to police officers. Albeit they were wearing anonymous riot gear and it was later impossible to refer with whom of them I spoke and got the permissions to stay. And also about my stay, there was this deadline issue. Other colleagues needed to leave, sending their stories, photos and videos to evening news and tomorrow newspapers, and I was a magazine photographer, so I had more time to stay until the demonstration ends. So I want to raise one question, and I have to press this is from unprofessionally, in a law unprofessional view. For the future discussion, I want to highlight this concept, which is widely being adopted by the court. It's a very important principle, but it has to be carefully interpreted as well on the field in editorial decisions and ultimately in the case law of domestic and international courts. There is a question in today's changing world that to whom we are mostly responsible when we as a journalist perform our duties. Regarding the watchdog status of the press, which is also favoured by the court, is it always in authorities' hand to decide if our audience is entitled or not to receive truthful and unbiased information? Put this 110 on your notes. In the eyes of authorities and courts, we can become suddenly outlaws even we were delivering information and peacefully observing actions of public authorities. I would be very happy to hear your opinions of this tenet of responsible journalism, as court calls it in my judgment. So why this all was important? Here I have again some my own choice of quotes from the judgments, which highlight the need to active future discussion of treatment of journalists in similar situations. Firstly, the court admits their existing information of journalist treatment in similar cases remains scarce. How can we add this knowledge? Secondly, Venice Commission presses the status of third parties monitoring this kind of situations. And thirdly, dissenting opinion of judgment criticize it of missing the opportunity to already reinforce the special nature of the press in demonstrations. Okay, what we already undisputedly learned from this case in the light of Grand Chamber judgment, on my own view. Maybe it was this outcome, and maybe I wasn't sufficiently distinguishable of the demonstrators. At least in Finland, authorities are now increasingly demanding press to wear some kind of press vest clothing, or at least keeping their press badges clearly visible. There has been discussion that there still exist situations when anonymity of press representatives as a third-party observers is crucial, for example, for their own safety. Should their actions be excusable if detained during demonstrations, if their journalistic status becomes immediately clear, and if they don't take direct or active part in violent demonstrations? At the end of Smash SM demonstration, I was on my way to leave the cordoned area when all the remaining activists were apprehended. Then I heard the command, "Get the photographer." I intuitively took this photograph of the apprehending officer. That was the last picture of my assignment and also of this representation. I would like to encourage everybody here to fight against that kind of democratic society where there is a pressing social need to arrest, detain, prosecute and convict journalists when observing authorities' actions. Let's keep watchdogs barking. Thank you.